Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to have another live broadcast on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, and also later on to Instagram. And I'm broadcasting Facebook also. Don't forget that. I'm in the studio today with my wife Gloria,
Hello, everyone.
and she'll be monitoring the broadcast. Also checking the chat room. The chat room is live. So if you have a comment or a question during the broadcast, write them down and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And after the broadcast, you can send me a comment also in the comments below this video, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, today I'm going to try some different techniques, and it's I like to draw trees and so forth, but I wanted to try something today to kind of simplify some things, but really take a few chances and see how it works. It's going to be an impressionistic, very impressionistic style. But I'm going to use, number one, I'm going to use little spray bottles. I'm going to use splattering a lot. And then I'm going to try to minimize the amount of brushstrokes I need to show the feeling of what I want to describe in the painting. So let's go to my painting table and let me describe what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Overhead camera. All right. This is my photo reference. You can see here it's I looked for something that was lights and darks. Well, I got this nice light tree here with a nice light leaves, and I got a darker background behind. And there's another little area here of some lights with some dark in here. But right at the bottom there's a nice path of light going here through the bottom, the sunlight hitting across the ground. So I got some beautiful work here. The sky is not important; it's just in the background. So I'm going to be working with these trees with some what I call free form techniques. Okay, we'll put the painting picture aside. Here's my design drawing. I took the information from the photograph and I put in here the shapes that I'm really looking at. This is the light areas here. This larger tree here in front. Then there's a small little tree over here which has got some light branches on it. But this beautiful pathway along here, the sun hitting the ground along here. So those areas really caught my attention when I saw this scene. So that's kind of my design plan right here, and this is my values: the dark and the lights, dark background and a lighter middle ground with a real light foreground coming across the ground. But what I did at preparation, I did some studies here. This one here, now this is called a no-tan sketch, black and white, and I wanted to really define for myself exactly where the dark areas are and where the light areas are. So that's my no-tan sketch right here of the same design. Then over here, I did a small color study, and basically I'm only going to use 3 colors in this whole painting. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue to make the green, and then maybe a little bit of brown on the trunks of the trees. Okay, so it's going to be a very limited palette that I'm going to be using. And also, I'll show you one thing else I did when I was looking at that scene last weekend. I did a plein air. This is my plein air sketch, and I used all splatter here, all splatter. And I actually I laid my visual journal down on the ground and actually did some splattering right over top of it, just to get the feeling I wanted. But I got the lights in here and I got the darks. So this was my little test area of on location sketch using splattering technique. Okay, so we're going to try a little bit of that today. It's going to be a wild application here of paint and techniques, but let's get started. I transferred the drawing to my watercolor paper. This is a 140-pound Gemini watercolor paper. It measures, it's a quarter sheet, 11 inches wide and 15 inches long. I'm going to put it in a portrait format, up and down this way. And I've got a different palette over. I got my palette, but on top of it, I put this a secondary palette, which has got little dishes in here that I have a little wells that I can pull the paints out, because I'm going to be doing a little splattering. So I want a little more areas where I can control where the paint is, so these little wells will help me. And the brushes, I'm going to use number 10. This is a Kolinsky sable. This is a number 10 round, and I've got the number 16 round Holbein synthetic brush round, and I'll be using the 3/4 inch flat Holbein brush. Okay, and that's about it. I'll be using my palette in a bottle dot sprayers, sold exclusively on Everetts Watercolors. I'll be using those with several colors also to apply paint and some water on the painting itself. Okay, so I can go ahead and get started. Now, one of the first things I do is when you do splattering or any kind of spraying, you want to make sure you cover up any area. I'm going to make sure I don't get anything here on my computer area, so I got all my electrical equipment all covered up.
Or your wife.
And yes, Gloria, she's safe though. She's got a raincoat on and an umbrella just in case they get carried away. But the way I'll show you how to control splatters. Number one, that's part of the technique. So let me just start here. I'm going to start. Number one, there's a little bit of sky in here, so I'm going to start with a little bit of spray bottle first. Now this is the palette bottle. This is a fine mist sprayer with a black top, and I've got a little bit of a cerulean blue here mixed up in here. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to just get across the top here to get the sky color in. I'm going to put. Let me cover up a little bit. I don't want to get any paint on my trees, or at least the light areas. So I'm going to cover some of this up with some paper. Okay, that'll shield it good enough. Just so it doesn't get in there. So I'm going to shake it. You shake out the bottle, get the paint all ready to go, and then you spray that sprayer into a water bucket, which is what I did. And I'm just going to do a light spray. And another thing I want to do also, I'm going to cover up my palette lid over here. I'm just going to put this extra canvas board on top. So now everything's covered except for the area I'm going to spray. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a light spray up there just for sky color. Okay, and that's all. That's all I'm going to do. So that's the sky, and I'm going to leave that alone. No brush work, no brush stroke, just let it go. And I'll move these aside. Now I won't cover my palette. So those are some of the precautions. You want to cover up areas that you don't want the spray to go into. That's number one lesson. Okay, now I'm going to take this number 10 brush here. I'm going to mix up a little bit of. Now I'm going to start with the light colors first, and I got the light colors here in the. Now, so in my palette, I've got the yellow lemon down here in these two areas. I got yellow lemon. Then I got a little bit of ultramarine blue in this little section here, and I already mixed them yellow and blue together to give me some light green. And I've got a little bit of burnt sienna up here ready to go up in this area. And there's very little of that to use at all. So the main colors I'm using is lemon, yellow, and ultramarine blue mixed over here in some light green and a medium color green. And I've got some spray bottles with colors in it also. Alright, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of this yellow here. I'm going to start with a lighter color first. And what I do here now is I'm going to use a little screen. And I don't need to, this going to show you when I'm using the screen now to kind of cover up some area. Now I'm just going to tap the brush. Make sure it's really loaded. I'm just tapping the brush. I'm just getting little dots of paint on here, just little dots. And that's in that tree. It's got most of the light color on in the middle. Okay, that section right there. Get a little more in there. So I'm tapping. What I'm doing is I'm holding the brush is loaded, and I'm just tapping with my other hand. Tapping against the finger. Okay. Now there's a little bit of white over here also, and I'm looking at my value study. There's a little bit of white color, a little bit of light colors over here on this section. And I'm going to put a photograph up here so you'll see also the areas that I'm doing. I'm going to put a photograph up pretty soon. Now move my hand around. Get a little bit of yellow going. Okay, now, okay. So that's kind of that was a splatter technique, and I'll be using more of that. So let me go ahead and get the, what I'll do is I'll put the, you know where the paint is over here. I don't have to, I'll just tell you about what I'm doing. I got the paint here, the yellow and the blue are mixed up in the greens. So when I say I'm using a certain color, you'll know where they are. They're just lemon yellow, ultramarine blue, mixing greens, light, darker green and lighter green, and I got a little bit of burnt sienna up here. And that's about it. It's a minimum palette. So let me go ahead and turn on the photograph, and I'll use that as a reference to look at as I'm doing the painting. Okay. All right. So there's a photograph over there on the right, and you can see the tree I'm doing. I'm getting the yellows in here along the edge of the tree. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my spray bottle. Now this is lemon yellow in the dot spray, and I'm going to shake that up. Okay, now what I want to do now, along the edge of the tree, I'm going to make a little, I'll pump the spot, prime the pump. Now I'm going to put a little lighter along the edge of this tree now, because that's where the sun was really hitting those limbs. So I'm going to get that right along the edge of that tree up here. It's got a lot of light. You can see the light on the edge of the tree. And now here also on the out perimeter over here on this side, I'm going to put a little more yellow over here also. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the spray bottle with the water in it, dot spray with the water, and I'm just going to hit these. I'll put a little water. I'm going to spread those dots out a little bit. I want to spread that paint out, so I'm going to hit those dots with a little bit of water. Okay. So now I've got a light area, a yellow area, and so forth going on there. Okay. Now I think what I'll also do, I can pick up a little darker. There's a little darker section here of green, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow. This is yellow mixed in with ultramarine blue. I'm loading the brush. I'm going to put that in here. On this section over here. That's this section here of the tree that's yellow, and it goes to a little bit of yellow green. So I mixed in a little bit of ultramarine blue with that. And then I can also go over here and put a little bit of yellow green over here. Okay. Now what I think I'll put a little more water on the paper, because I want to get some of that paint to spread out just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to blow dry this just a little bit. Just let me blow dry. Now you can see here I haven't touched it with a brush yet, other than the splatter. Okay. Thank you. All right. So it's going to stay wet for a little bit, so I'm just trying to get it started here, just to get a little bit of the color set into the paper. So this is going to be an impressionistic painting, and I'm going to leave. I'll probably leave quite a bit of white paper showing me, a little bit of sparkle in the painting, and we'll see. We'll see as it progresses. We'll see as it progresses. Okay. Now with this, with these wet drops here, it'll take a little bit longer to dry this out. But I'm going to go ahead and let that set in right now. I'll turn it off. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and start building in some of the darker areas. So I'm going to pick up a little darker green. And that's a darker mix of ultramarine blue and yellow lemon. And it was all dark out on the outside. And let's see, I want to make sure I don't get too wild up here. I can block off a little bit of that. Let's go into more splattering now. We're going to get this a dark area with some darker blue. I'm putting some color out here. So I'm just kind of establishing the colors. I'll go in a little bit. I'll be going in a little bit later, a little more paint. But right now, just getting the baseline started here. And it's darker up here at the top. And I'm just using a tapping motion and splattering it in. And there's some out here on the edge on the side. Get this started over here. Now this tree is in shadow underneath this tree, so there'll be a lot of greens going down there also. Okay, so now I'm going to use this dot spray bottle again and add a little more water. So I'm going to get some water and break these dots up a little bit. Now, as you add water, though, it also is going to lighten the value a little bit. But we'll let that run. Okay, now also this path of light down here, I can go ahead and put that in. So let me pick up some of that yellow mixture, and I'm going to go ahead and put that path of light in. So again, I'm just using a tapping motion. This is the grass on the ground, which is a yellow-green, but that beautiful sunlight coming through there gave me a nice path of light. And what I can do here now is also put in some dot spray with the spray bottle. Okay. Now I can tilt. I don't know if I'll try. Now you can try tilting the paper a little bit. Sometimes that'll help the paint run, but in a lot of cases it just sits right there in a big puddle. All right. Okay. Well, I'll let that run a little bit. Put a little more water down here. Okay. Now let's see what else I can do here. Kind of right there. And I've got a mixture here now of dark green. This is a dot spray bottle with a mixture of ultramarine blue and yellow lemon. It gives me a very dark green. I put a lot more blue in there than yellow, so it's going to be a real dark green. And I'll pump that. And I'm going to use my screen. Let's see, I put it up here. This little piece of plastic comes in handy. Putting some dot spray, putting a little bit of dots around here with the darker paint. Okay, using a light tapping motion with the spray bottle. And let's see. I think I'll put a little more. I got a little more water to that. Okay, now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in some of that darker areas now below the trees because they're in shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that darker color right here underneath the trees as a shadow. And this is going to be a shadow out here, and I can put some out here in the foreground here, right here at the bottom, put some down here. So I'm spraying that in. Okay. Then I'll pick up some more of that green mixture and kind of splatter it in. I have a little bit of green down here also.
Light tapping motion is important because if you press too hard, you're going to get blobs.
Yeah, the light tapping motion of the spray bottle is to give you control of the size of the dots. the size of the spray. If you spray too hard, you'll get a big glob or a big blob on the paper. Where we're trying to do just we're trying to just get a small area started and control the amount of size of the spray. So a light tapping motion on the spray bottle is very important. It takes some practice, but that's what you do. You load up your spray bottle with paint, and then okay. Now I think there's a little dark area in here also, and I'll put a little bit of paint in there. Let's see. I can try the spray bottle. I'm going to try right in here between. There's a little bit of dark in here. I'm going to kind of little light tapping motion. Okay, light tapping motion. Pick up a little green paint. A little bit of splatter in there. Now by pointing the brush to where I want to hit, all I'm doing is tapping the brush and just pointing the bristles in the direction I want it to hit. Okay. And down here, I get more paint down here. This is all in shadow down here, so I can put a little bit more paint down here in this section. Add a little bit of blue to that. Okay, now if you look at the where I've got the paint now, you can see I've got the light area here of the tree, another little area of light, and I got the light across the ground. So I've got pretty well everything placed. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the the number 16 round. I'm going to start moving some paint around. And let me start with the tree first. So I'm going to load the brush with a little bit of lemon yellow. And I'm going to go in here now. I'm going to go in here and just get in there and I'm going to kind of move the brush in the direction of those branches. I'm just going to do very minimal brush work to get the shape of that tree. And up here, some of those lighter branches here. I'm going to do a little crisscross stroke here. And bring this down. It kind of overhangs at the bottom. So now what I'm doing, I'm taking the paint that's on there now and I'm kind of moving it around a little bit with a brush. But I'm trying to minimize how much movement I'm doing. Okay, all right. And this I'm starting with the light areas first. This little section over here has got some edges on it, and really the brush now will help me control the edges. The spray bottle, you can get the paint on there, but then the brush is going to allow me to control the edges. And that's normal. That's normal. We're not doing anything extraordinary other than to control where the paint is and the paint application. And I think the abstract way of applying here with spray bottles and with splattering gives you a unique, different look. Now I'm going to pick up a little darker green now. This section back in here of this light tree is a little darker, so now I'm going to apply that. And it almost blends in with the background. So here in this section here is gradual change of that green, and then it goes in and it really will almost blend in with the background. Okay. Now let that kind of dry a little bit before I go and mess. Now I'm going to start working on this path of light, which is very, to me, the most interesting part. And what I'll do here now is I'm going to go ahead and move that paint around just a little bit. And here I'm just going to use a very abstract I want a path of light, but I can leave some white paper showing. I can make it move a little bit more. I'm just controlling the flow of I'm controlling the placement of the paint. And where I can't get a spray bottle for accuracy, I can use the paintbrush to give me a little more control over where I want to paint. Give me that pathway out there.
Susan says, thanks for your programs. I am learning so much from your lessons.
Well, that's nice. That's very nice. Thank you. The opportunity here is to try to experiment a little bit, but also to do a looser style of painting where you don't. I'm not really worried about too much about getting it exact. I'm just trying to get an impression of feeling here, of this light area coming across the ground with the light trees, and then I can work on the darks around it. Okay, so I think I've pretty well established all the lights that I need. I got the light tree and I got the light ground. So now I can start really focusing now on the dark areas. Those dark areas now can start encroaching on the outside, and I think that's when the tree will really start coming alive, when I get the darks established here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that ultramarine blue, and I'm going to start working over here at the top. And I'm going to again, I'll start with the edges, the tree edges. And again, I don't follow the exact of the photograph. I'm going to just give a little impressions of what the edge of the trees would look like the branches with the leaves out there. These are evergreen trees with large dark branches of leaves. Just want to give the general characteristic of these shapes and make sure I have a nice variety, not all the same stroke or all the same shape, but a nice variety. So I'm going to work on the edge, and as I come in, I'll work around the actual light shape. Now this section over here, I'm going to get a little more freedom here. I'm going to go ahead and go a little faster here. I can follow. I've made a general outline of the shape I wanted in here, and so I can use that as a guide. But then I'll use my brush strokes to give me a variety. And the example I always like to say, if it looks like a tree, it's a tree. If it looks like a pine tree, it's a pine tree. And there's some little sky holes up here I can leave here. I love sky holes. So I can leave some sky holes up here in this dark area. In the photograph, there's some sky holes. So again, I can just kind of play with that a little bit as I come in. The emphasis here is I want to get really dark against the light. That's going to make that yellow really come out. Now the yellow is still wet, so I don't want to get too close yet. Or the yellow and that dark will start running together. So I'll leave that alone a little bit. I can come in and let it dry a little bit. Now I'll go back in. We'll start working on this side over here. I'm working on the edges. In a painting, the edges are really important. The edges really define the element. It defines the item. So working on edges and defining an edge is very important. And of course, here we have contrast. We have the value contrast, the lights against the dark, which helps define the shape of that smaller tree here in the center area. And this is all, if you notice, see from the photograph, this is all in shadow back here, so I can pretty well block this in very quickly at this point. And there's a little there's a little dark section here. I like this part here. This is one of my favorite spots. The section that goes in between the larger light tree, and this little section out here, this another tree that's in sunlight. Bring that section down. Again, I'm just trying to control the edges. Paint the edges, edge control, edge shapes. Then this section out here, this is I guess more background back here. It's behind the trees. Further back. It's darker than the sky, so it will have its own value. Again, I'm controlling the edges around. And I'm leaving a white paper. I can go back and fill those in at the end if I see something really standing out. Okay, now as I come down, now there's an important area now is around this shadow area. And you can see from the photograph, this is very dark down here. And I'm not going to follow the photograph exactly. And it's an artist's prerogative to make changes and modify. This section down here gets combined. The background of this tree combines with the shadow pattern. Okay, now the most important of this tree, there's a trunk that I can see the trunk, so I'm going to paint around that because that's an important part of this part of the composition here, of this forward tree here. This tree is forward. Those other trees are in the kind of middle ground, toward the background and middle ground. This is coming down. I guess I would classify this tree here as the middle ground because it's in the middle. The foreground is really the path of light, and the shadow area is the foreground. Okay. Okay, now I think you can see now if I look at I'm looking at the screen now, and I can see I pretty well have defined. Now, from now on, I still a little more work, and after that, it's just a matter of whatever touch-up needs to be done. What I think I'll do is I've got a tissue here in my hand. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this right here, taking up some of the excess moisture because I want to get that shadow pattern in for that tree. So I'll pick up a little bit of that moisture there, okay, before I stick that in there. Then I'm going to take, I think I'll change brushes first, just for a change. I'm going to use the flat brush. I've got the 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm going to load it up with ultramarine, a little bit of that yellow lemon. And I'm going to come down here with bold brush strokes. This foreground is in shadow. Just cover that in precisely. Here we go. Okay. Now this is still wet. I might dry this a little bit more before I touch any more of the edges. But I'll get this in here This really gets the base, what I call the base coat. Okay, shadow. And there's one other area I want to get in. That's the shadow pattern under that tree. So I'll pick up this dark green, and this is the shadow pattern underneath the tree. Okay, then I'll take a smaller brush. I didn't use them. This is a number 8 round, and I'm going to take the only other color I've used ultramarine blue and lemon yellow, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of I mixed in a little bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, just a little. They give me a gray, and I'll go in and put the trunk in here. Be a light gray area here. This is in sunlight. Okay, let's let that settle there for a minute. Okay, let's see. We got some time here to dry down. Let me dry this off just a little bit before I go back in. So so what I've done is first stage here, or first or second stage. I've got the colors pretty well defined. I've got the light areas and dark areas. I've got the masses blocked in. This is the blocked in process. So stage 1 and 2 is really blocking in the colors, the lights and the darks. And just going to blow dry this a little bit to get some of the paint settled. And you know, when you have time, like I paint my painting studio, I'll let this set aside and let it dry on its own. But speed it up a little bit with the blow dryer. And what I want to do next is to go back in and fine tune around some of the edges, and just knock down some of the white areas a little bit. But the blocking in process has defined the main part of the painting. Okay. All right, we can. I got some fixes on. I see here already. This is the main. This tree here is the main tree. Over here, I may want to tone this down just slightly on the second go. Right now, the first go is just to get to block in the main colors and the main shapes. That's the first job, and it's now drying pretty well. I got just about 90% of this dry now. There's still little white areas, and they won't bother me. A couple little white areas, wet areas. Okay, all right, that's enough. There's still a little couple damp spots, but that's all right. We can work around that. Yeah, what I was talking about, this tree, little bit section over here. If you look at the photograph, it's not as. This is the brightest section here. Then we go over here. It should be a little bit less bright, so we can knock that down slightly. So what I can do here is, so I'll start with that section here first of all. That's the biggest change I want to make. Is kind of lower this down just a little bit. So I'll take a little bit of yellow green. Yellow green mixture. Same thing, ultramarine blue and yellow lemon. And I'm going to just tone this down a little bit over here. So what I'm actually doing, reducing the amount of yellow showing. There's more yellow here, less yellow here. It's still a light area, but not as light as that middle section. this little tree over here, it was partially in sunlight, so I want to you know, capture the sunlight coming in there. The impression of the sunlight hitting that part of a tree. But I don't want it to overcome the main part over here, which is this main part of the tree. Okay. And blend these colors together a little bit. Okay. All right. I think that's a much better job there. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go around and eliminate some of the white areas now around the center tree. So let's see. I can start over here. This is the darkest area over here. So I can come over here and get more darks in here. And there's very little light areas over here, so I want to block in all these light areas I'm showing. The shadow is all dark, so there's no white areas down in the shadow. And I can make the a little shape here of some grass along the edge here, just to give a little indication of grass. And let's see. I think also in this area here, this section of the tree is also a little bit greener. So I'm knocking down some of the whites, and I'm also reducing some of that. I'll leave some of the whites there. The whites to me are okay. They're not the whites. It's just getting a little bit of the yellow areas. Get the impression the sunlight's hitting this major part of the tree over here. The sunlight's coming this way, and this backside is in shadow. Not as bright back here. It's still got some color, but not as dark as the background. And then let's see. I like this area over here. I think what I'll do is I'm going to add some more green to the background, just a touch. So darken that green up a little bit with some blue. And I like to leave whites in my paintings. I don't like to cover those all up. They show a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of glow. You have the impression of sunlight. You want to have lights and darks. You want to have dark areas and light areas. This area up here, I can knock out some of these little white areas. Okay. Well, this is part where you can go back in another time later, and you can always add more and more detail. Sometimes I've heard it many times, and I've had the same experience myself, that when is a painting done? Sometimes it can go on and on. It can go on for as long as you want to continue working with it. but I think I'm going to come to a finishing point here where we can talk about actually what happened. And let's see. I think what I want to do now, I want to add a shadow to the trunk of the tree. That comes in. Okay. So I could take a darker mix of that gray that I made, a little bit of burnt sienna, and come in here and get the back part of this trunk up into the tree. Now wash out the brush, just a damp brush, and kind of blend that in now. So I don't want too much, I don't want a hard edge, I want kind of a blended edge here. A blended edge. Show the shadow hitting the ground. And let's see. Okay, this section here, I think I like that section there. The lightness, might put a little, just a touch of green in here. I like that the lightness of this area. This is where the sun is shining through, so I don't want to lose the lightness. Don't want to lose it. I can show a little bit of texture here. But leave that white or light area showing. A little bit of texture, maybe little bumps and lumps and so forth of the grass. Okay. Take a little bit, I think the last touch I'm going to make, take a little bit of darkness here and then kind of break this edge up a little bit in here. Just a touch. Okay. Maybe a little bit out here. All right. I don't think I'm going to frame that. I left a lot of white up here. This can be, I can add it. It can be added in later on, but I think I really need the lights in there to really. This is an impressionistic painting, so I want to have a lot of light, brightness. And I want the tree to really be the center of interest in the whole painting. And of course, there's a path of light coming across there with some white showing. So that's really at the discretion of an artist, and I think I'll leave that alone. I'm going to show this two ways. So I'm going to frame it now. Let me move some of my bottles out of the way here, so I have room. I'm going to move the towel. I got a towel here. Okay. And let's see. And let me take that, take the photograph down. Okay, now we got the full screen here. And I don't want to get that too wet, so let's move these brushes around. Okay, it's going to take a little bit, I'm doing a little bit of housekeeping here to get some stuff out of my way. Okay, so what I want to show you here was I can do this a couple ways. Okay. I can put a white border around it. Here's a white. This is the white mat. Okay, and that's how you see most paintings hung up. They're in the white mat. That gives a nice. You can see the dark contrast there of the background trees, and then that tree is popping out. And there's still a lot of lights there showing, but you know, I can let this sit here for a day and then come back and work on it again. That's the process. Sometimes you'll come back and work on a painting several times before you're happy with it. Now I can put a green border around this. put a darker border around this. And then I can put the white back on, and I can get like a double border. If I want to do a white edge with a green edge, something like that, like a second layer, I could do that. If I want to get the dark there, that really shows the lights. That when you have a dark border, that shows the light colors, and when you show a white border, it shows the dark colors. So that's where you have choices. This kind of gives you a nice push and pull here. You can see the light colors, dark colors with the white border. Then you see the lighter colors with the darker green border. Okay, all right. So we learned today a little bit about splattering with a brush, just hitting and tapping it in. Spray bottles to add a little more texture and a little more paint to the surface, and then I used the brush as sparingly as I could, just to push the paint around to define the edges. The paintbrush was around, I just used that to define the edges. So I think we came up with a successful paint. I really like what turned out. Okay, so let's go back to my main camera. Hey, main camera, excuse me. Main camera? Hi! Okay, well that was my impressionistic painting today of a sunlit tree. I found that sunlit tree when I was out painting plein air. I showed you the plein air painting that I did, the sketch. And I just started splattering paint on the paper. And I said, well, hey, can I make this work? And of course, on location, I didn't have anything to protect it or whatever. I just started splattering and splattering. And it turned out, impressionistically, it turned out just fine. I could still show the trees and so forth. And I used very little brushwork on it. I put some limbs in there. I could add limbs here if I wanted to on the branches. But I think the most important thing was the lights and darks and the highlights, and of course that path of light coming at the bottom of the tree. I think that's something that really attracted my attention. So I'll be back next week on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another watercolor class or demonstration. And then I'll be on this evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Simply Drawing with Everett. And I'm going to be drawing a sundial tonight. Yeah, I'm going to draw a sundial. A little more sunshine. Okay, and then on Sunday I'll put out anyone can draw one line only, a little short video. It'll show you how you can do a simple sketch with just one line. So hope you enjoy that. If you're all subscribed to my channel, you'll be notified of all these videos in the future. Any comments? Oh, you're welcome, Susan. Susan, thank you for the program. I read your comment. I hope you enjoyed that, and I think this is something to try. It's a little bit splattering is the only thing about it is you want to cover up areas that you don't want the paint to hit. And I'll tell you from experience, just take a towel and wipe it up, or dot it up with a tissue, and you'll be fine. But it takes a little bit of practice. Cover up areas you want to protect that you don't want to have splattered. But then just have fun with it, and you'll be surprised. Like I showed that plein air, just let it happen. You'd be surprised what you turn up with, and then you can just play with it.
For the record, he didn't get any paint on me.
Oh, Gloria's fine. She's safe. She didn't get any paint on her. That's great. That was my objective also, is to do a painting without getting anybody wet. All right. So I'll see you all next week. You see me on my next live video next Thursday. And until then, you all have a safe week in June. It's getting warm out there. So enjoy yourself. And we'll see you on the next video.